members of the public and applicants. My name is Thomas Slade, the Chairman of the Planning and Transportation Committee, and this is the Planning Applications Subcommittee on the 30th of September, or the 8th day of autumn, I think, if you're counting that. It certainly feels like it outside. You're almost welcome. We have one substantial item on the agenda today, which we'll get to shortly, but I'd like to hand over to the Town Clerk to register apologies, please.
Thank you. We've received apologies.
Oh, get the mic down. Sorry. Thank you. It just works, isn't it?
It just works. Apologies for absence have been received from the Deputy Chair, Shravan Joshi, Emily Benn, Alderwoman Elizabeth King, Nigat Qureshi and Matthew Waters.
Thank you. Item 2, does anyone have any declarations to make under the Code of Conduct in respect to items on today's agenda? Looking around, are you aware of any, Town Clerk? No? Okay, so there are none. Moving on to item 3, the minutes of 3 prior meetings. There will be some amendments. On the first, which is from the Planning Applications Subcommittee from June 2025, we're not aware of any comments or amendments. Are we happy to approve those? Thank you. Item B, which is the minutes from Planning Applications Subcommittee on the 8th of July. Simon Pryke, we unfortunately accidentally didn't register you as on the list of those present. You were indeed present. So with that amendment, are we happy to approve those minutes? Thank you. And then turning to, it's actually marked in my list as B, but C, which is the public minutes of the committee on the 9th of September. We've received a request of one change, Marianne, which is to register you as voting against by name. If you want to say something, that's fine.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I voted against the Sugar Key recommendation, and understanding orders, I'm allowed to have my name listed in the minutes as voting against. And for members who aren't aware of that, I thought I'd mention it in case they wanted to add their name. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Marianne. That amendment being made. William?
Can I just ask why the minutes arrive with us quite so late? They are very, very detailed, and I don't know about other people. Actually, I've not really had a chance to do more than totally glance through them. This is the sort of thing, particularly given their length, that we should have had earlier. And also slightly mystified, everyone's a member apart from, endeavour, anonymous. Apparently the glorious Mr. Deputy Henry Pollard gets a named citation.
Yeah, I did. I noticed that. I didn't comment on it. I noticed that. And the chair is singled out, and so is I guess Chief Commoner, maybe, that's why.
Yeah.
Henry, are you happy to be named as such? I'm happy. Okay. So I think on the timing point, I received a draft.
But in terms of consistency, Chairman, maybe amend that.
Well, anonymise you.
Yeah.
Fine. And in terms of, yeah, I mean, they were quite late. I got them, I think, on Thursday, and I turned them around that day. And I know the team did too. I think it was probably just a bit of a backlog in town clerks, but I will note that and endeavour to do better in the future. Gabby?
Just a slight amendment, page 16, where I talk about Somerset House, it's actually
I think I wonder, given William's comments, whether or not we should defer these to be approved at the next meeting. And I did note that there was a comment that Martha Grekos, who was representing some of the residents, 2 residents in Sugar Key, I wondered whether the people who spoke had an opportunity to see these minutes. But there was a reference that she revealed that she was there on behalf of 2 residents, and I wondered whether revealed was the correct adjective. I mean, I think she clearly stated, she didn't suddenly spring out that she was here to represent them. So it's just sort of nuances like that. I think it's worth bouncing them off the people who do speak so they have an opportunity to make any comments or corrections. Thank you, Chair.
Correct. I think we should change revealed to perhaps stated or similar. Tana.
Chair, could I also be named as voting against the Sugar Key application, please? Thank you.
To your point, Marianne, I'm keen... Sorry, same for you? Same. I'm keen not to defer. I mean, I know we only had 4 or 5 days to read them, but hopefully that was enough to kind of be able to be in a position today to approve them. Is that okay? Just kind of looking around. I'm quite keen to get through the business. Thank you. Are we happy, therefore, with all of those amendments? And noting the timing, William, we will endeavour to do better. Can we approve them? Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to, actually, before we do move on, I would just like to say the last time I was in this room was at a member of this committee's wedding, Emily Ben's wedding, and she got married last week, and I'm sure the committee would join me in sending our congratulations to her and noting that. 130 Fenchurch Street. The usual health warning applies to this, which is ideally we need to ground our conversations and certainly our decisions in planning matters and policy matters and not bring private interests or personal taste into our conversations or judgment. Just so you're aware again of the process we will follow, Alex, one of our officers, will present. There are no objectors registered to speak, although last night one letter of objection did come in from Mr. Fred Rogers. Hopefully you will have received that as an addendum 3. After that, supporters will then address us. You will have an opportunity to question them, then an opportunity to ask questions of officers, then a debate, and then the vote. So that's the process. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. So Alex Thwaites, Principal Planner, and I'll be presenting the application at 130 Fenchurch Street. So this is a presentation, this presentation is a condensed version of the presentation sent round to members with the officer report. So the application site is located within the City Cluster Tall Building area and within close proximity to various transport links, including Fenchurch Street and Monument Station. The application site itself is located north of Fenchurch Street, bound by Collins Street to the west and Fen Court to the east. The site is within close proximity of various developments, notably 120 Fenchurch Street and 50 Fenchurch to the southeast, which is currently under construction. In terms of heritage assets, the building itself is not listed, nor is it a non-designated heritage asset, and is also not within a conservation area. Leadenhall Market Conservation Area lies adjacent to the site, as well as the Grade 2 listed Lime Street estate buildings and the Grade 2 star listed Leadenhall Market. The site is occupied almost in its entirety with the 1950s building known as Fountain House. The current property consists of approximately 14,000 square metres of open Class C, with the majority of that being previously used as office. Apart from an existing cafe unit, the building is currently vacant and is generally in a decommissioned state. So some views of the existing site from Collins Street and some views of the existing site from Fen Court. So Fountain House is very outdated. It has poor office floor space, poor floor-to-ceiling heights, insufficient energy performance, and is also currently not compliant with fire regs. So the proposal put forward under this application is for the phased development consisting of the demolition of the existing building and the erection of a new building comprising of 3 basement levels, ground floor and 34 stories. This application follows 2 previous applications on site approved in 2014 and 2016 for similar proposals, albeit not as tall. The proposal is for an office-led development with additional public amenities at ground and elevated levels. In terms of its physical appearance, the application has been designed with the surrounding cluster's height in mind, and the evolution of the proposal has led to a unique silhouette. The building would appear as 2 interconnected tower elements with inset terraces spiralling upwards through the massing. The proposals are considered to meet the required standards of architectural design and would fit neatly into the existing and future city cluster. The massing and height is considered to be appropriate within its setting, while also importantly remaining invisible in views from the processional routes and St Paul's Cathedral. So how does this look in CGI format? Well, this is a visual from Fenchurch Street showing the proposed glass-led architecture with inset balconies. One of the key themes in the design is the proposed V-shaped columns at ground floor, which is also replicated in the tower's crown design, bringing a symmetry to the architecture. And another view, this time from the southwest, and a closer look at the crown and terrace details. More likely, the proposals would significantly improve the ground floor presence of the application site. The V-shaped columns that essentially hold up the main curved facade would allow for a more recessed ground floor and a greater activation. So moving on to planned format, as discussed, the new building line would be pulled back from the existing building line, providing an uplift of 316 square metres of public realm. There would be new office access points from Fenchurch Street and Fen Court, as well as the provision of retail units shown in pink on this plan. While there would be a technical loss of retail on the principal shopping centre designation, this would be in line with the previously approved applications on site. And this application would go further to provide additional cultural floor space at ground floor, as well as providing a new east to west pedestrian route and safeguarding a north to south route to the Lime Street estate. The proposal is therefore considered acceptable in terms of layout and would provide a significant amount of active frontage, as well as additional public realm. So moving up the building, this slide shows a typical office floor plate. With the core being located centrally, this would provide large adaptable grade A office floor space. The proposal would provide an uplift of circa 43,000 square metres of office floor space, which would provide the equivalent of 3,600 jobs in line with core strategic policies. So moving on to the public amenity provision at upper levels, this is quite a good CGI that shows the concept of the two public areas. So the application seeks to provide a cultural space and an elevated public viewing gallery. The concept of the cultural space, located on the eastern side of the building, has been designed to almost be a continuation of the garden at 120, while the public terrace located on the western side would mitigate the loss of view from 120. Both areas would be accessed from a new cultural lobby at the ground floor and would consist of internal and external spaces. So taking level 20 first, so the highest level, this would provide 644 square metres of internal and 171 square metres of external public viewing gallery. This level also provides space for a link to the cultural use, the details of which will be managed and secured within the appropriate management plans. Similarly, at level 17, this would provide 570 square metres of cultural use, again of internal and external, and the details of the cultural use would be secured in the management plan. However, what is of note for this application is that there is a current meanwhile use on site that is essentially testing the cultural ideas in situ, which would be used to inform the final management plan. Also, just on note for both these points, as both of these areas are open to the public, both level 20 and level 17 have 2.8 metre high balustrades within the external areas, which have been considered by the public health officer. Considered acceptable by the public health officer, I should say. Equally on that same point, for the office amenity areas such as the roof terrace, the balustrades are considered wholly acceptable by the public health officer. So moving on to views, I'll start with Waterloo Bridge existing versus proposed and consented. London Bridge existing versus proposed and consented. Tower Bridge existing versus proposed and consented. From the inner wards existing, proposed and consented. Fen Court existing, proposed and consented. And Leadenhall Market existing, proposed and consented. So sustainability-wise, the proposal does include the demolition of the building. The carbon optioneering concluded that the existing pad concrete foundations and the poor quality office core would mean that the demolition and rebuild would, in this case, maximise the development capacity while being the most appropriate strategy. In terms of whole life carbon, while the scale of the building would push it above the GLA benchmark, this is mainly due to the requirement for the basement for cycle parking and the surrounding site constraints. The applicant has, however, committed to targeting neighbours 5-star and BREEAM Excellent, which has been considered acceptable by officers. Furthermore, the proposal would be fully compliant in terms of urban greening factor and would represent a significant increase of biodiversity on site. Daylight sunlight terms, the application has a very limited impact on surrounding properties given the location of the proposal. In the future baseline, the only real impact would be to one window of the Bunch of Grapes pub, which would see a total 1.9% loss of daylight. Similarly, overshadowing is very similar. Not taking into account any other development, the proposal would have an impact on Fen Court in terms of overshadowing. However, officers note that once 50 Fenchurch is built, that development would essentially cause the same level of overshadowing regardless of the proposed development. Similarly, in terms of wind effects, the proposals are compliant with policy and would in fact lead to a betterment of existing conditions. So in terms of transport and highways, the proposal would lead to a significant increase in public realm. While one Category C tree is proposed to be removed due to a conflict with fire regulations, this is mitigated against with the proposed replacement of 2 new additional semi-mature trees on Fenchurch Street. A further 278 package is also proposed that includes the resurfacing work of Column Street to a shared surface. This would be secured within the legal agreement. Servicing-wise, it's proposed that the application would be serviced via Column Street. This would be a continuation of the existing scenario and also similar to that approved under the previous applications. And finally, the proposal is fully compliant in terms of cycle provision with the development providing 860 spaces at basement level and 72 showers and 860 lockers also at basement level. So to conclude, the proposal would therefore provide a distinct architectural character within the evolving cluster, a significant increase in Grade A office floor space, the provision of significant elevated public spaces, a significant increase in public realm, including the provision and safeguarding of pedestrian routes, and an overall redevelopment of an underused site. So the proposal is recommended for approval subject to the conditions and heads of terms details within the officer report and addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alex. And you'll be up for questions shortly. But before that, I'm going to invite the applicants and supporters to come forward. Just so you know the protocol, there's 10 minutes allowed for this. Individuals can only have 5. We have a traffic light system, so when the red light comes on, you have 30 seconds left. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
With the green light. And when it's just the red light, it's time to stop. Hopefully that's clear. And if you could just begin by introducing yourself, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Certainly. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ben Lippman. I'm Head of Development at Aviva Investors, and I'm joined here today by members of the project team who will be available to answer any questions. Aviva Investors are a major developer and investor in the City of London, and we are proud of our strong and proven track record of delivering high-quality, sustainable developments in the Square Mile. Our current projects include 101 Moorgate and 1 Liverpool Street, both of which exemplify Aviva's commitment to design excellence, environmental performance and long-term stewardship. This is an approach we remain committed to continuing with 130 Fenchurch Street. These 3 schemes represent over 80,000 square metres of new office space in the City of London, reflecting our commitment to delivering investment and growth in the Square Mile. 130 Fenchurch Street is a strategically important site located within the designated foothills of the cluster. To maximise the site's potential, we have assembled an experienced professional team led by our development partner, Core. The design has been led by architects Wilkinson Eyre, who were selected as part of a design competition process. Our assessment of the existing building has demonstrated that it has limited potential to deliver meaningful benefits to the city and its community in its current form. It offers poor quality space that has remained vacant for a number of years and would require major upgrades to meet modern standards, including fire safety, accessibility, and environmental performance improvements. This is not what modern occupiers want, nor what the city needs to remain internationally competitive. The proposals before you today will ensure that this site contributes meaningfully towards the demand for new commercial space within the Square Mile. This will be delivered through a new 34-storey building, which will deliver 57,491 square metres of Grade A office space. With vacancy rates for Grade A space in the city currently sitting at 1.4%, we're confident this building will meet the demand by providing a best-in-class product. We have incorporated significant greening throughout the building through the creation of public and private terraces. This will create a visual link to other existing and proposed mid-height terraces in the immediate area, notably the existing garden at 120 Fenchurch Street and those proposed at 50 Fenchurch Street. A new public viewing gallery on level 20 with a large external terrace to the southwest corner of the site will provide additional public space. The terraces will feature a diverse range of planting species to maximise visual greening along Fenchurch Street. We will also be creating 600 square metres of new public space at street level and improved pedestrian access by introducing a new route connecting Cullum Street to Fen Court. This will enhance connectivity for office workers and the public, improving access to Fen Court Gardens, the Eastern Cluster and other local landmarks, such as Leadenhall Market. The new route will also help ease pedestrian flows for those entering the city from Fenchurch Street Station. The proposals include a new cultural offer on level 17 alongside ground floor and food and beverage uses, which will help animate the street and encourage activity beyond traditional office hours. We are particularly proud of the role this development will play in supporting the City of London Corporation's Destination City strategy. Importantly, we have already begun testing ideas and demand for the future cultural space through Seed 130, a meanwhile use activation programme. You'll hear from my colleague George Kakatos at Future City shortly. Our meanwhile use at Seed 130 has welcomed over 3,700 visitors since its opening and has given us valuable insights into how the space can be curated, particularly at weekends when the gallery is at its busiest, to support cultural engagement and community interaction in the city. We are extremely proud that this meanwhile use space has been shortlisted in the meanwhile activation category at the NLA Awards. In closing, this is a bold and thoughtful scheme that will bring a long vacant site back into positive use. It reflects the best of what the city can offer: ambition, culture, sustainability and inclusivity. And I hope that the committee will support the officer's positive recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lippman. We have another speaker, so we can reset the timer, please. Over to you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is George Kakatos, Director of Culture for Future City, a cultural-led placemaking agency based in London, with 17 years of experience delivering cultural projects within the built environment. I had the pleasure of leading the cultural proposals and strategy for 130 Fenchurch Street, as well as the inception, curation and delivery of Seed 130, the meanwhile activation supporting this application. As a cultural expert with extensive experience in developing and delivering cultural strategies in the City of London, responding to Destination City, I can confidently state that the proposals for these applications are genuinely robust and thoroughly devised. The vision of the cultural strategy is centered around the gallery at level 17 and its accompanying cultural spaces, a gallery dedicated to the exploration of environmental sustainability through art and cultural exchange. These proposals are the result of deep research, cultural auditing and policy analysis, and have been tested for both their design and operational viability, both internally with the design team and externally with cultural stakeholders and city officers. Importantly, they respond to local need, providing dynamic cultural spaces for the arts while also addressing themes of sustainability, climate change and greening, all of which are emphasized in local policy. To test our research in practice, we launched Seed 130, a meanwhile activation program in the form of a gallery in the existing building at 130 Fenchurch Street. Although driven by the cultural strategy, every effort has been made for Seed 130 to operate as an independent cultural space. Since opening in March 2025, Seed 130 has delivered 4 exhibitions, welcoming over 3,700 visitors. The gallery has been open 3 days a week, with Saturdays proving consistently the busiest, and the highest single-day number of visitors reaching 250. The free public program has been carefully curated to test different aspects of the cultural strategy and has included exhibitions from internationally acclaimed artist Matt Collishaw, first-year art students from University of the Arts London, and artist collective Studio Swine and Invisible Dust. Most recently, we partnered with the National Trust and Transport for London to deliver a major photography exhibition and community garden. Alongside the exhibitions, we have hosted free and open to the public workshops, panel discussions and talks with a strong educational focus. We have welcomed young people from across London, including 29 Year 1 students from our local Aldgate School. Finally, Seed 130 has already received external recognition. It has been shortlisted for 2 awards, the NLA's Award for Meanwhile Activation and Archiboo's Best Use of AI and Immersive Technologies. Our first exhibition, Move 37 by Matt Collishaw, was named the Guardian's Exhibition of the Week in its opening week. The findings from this significant public engagement will directly inform the cultural strategy for 130 Fenchurch Street, its future cultural occupancy, partnerships, curation and design. At the same time, Seed 130 is already generating significant social value, contributing meaningfully to the hyperlocal area, as well as the square mile destination city, by activating the ground floor and repurposing a disused retail unit. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kikatos. And we have a further speaker. Just double checking, how long do we have left on the clock? 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Chair, I just to say my name is Liam Lawson-Jones from DP9 and we're available to take any questions. We're joined by members of the project team.
Okay. Oh, that was very efficient. Thank you. Yes, I see.
Very brief.
I think we have project team members, including a representative of the architects as well, which is very helpful. Okay, over to the committee for questions they may have from the applicant team. Josephine Hayes.
Good morning. I noticed that the information in the officer's report about the occupier comfort regarding sunlight on these windows was brief. It's at paragraph 907, those who want to look at the public pack. But Deputy John Edwards has kindly sent me a report from Arup, which I understand the applicants obtained, explaining that there will be, can you confirm that there will be double glazing with Venetian blinds that automatically lower and raise, automated process, and that the objective is to maximise the natural light while minimising the heat, and in the wintertime, maximising the heat?
Thank you for your question. I'll have a go at answering this, but Dominic Bedison from Wilkinson Air may also be able to add to it if I don't fully answer your question. So our planning application seeks permission for a fully glazed facade system. Within that analysis, we've explored whether or not we can use two different types of facade systems. So hopefully all being well today, we'll be getting ready to carry out detailed design work that will go through all of those. I believe the system you're referring to and the pack that was issued to members following our members briefing talks about a closed cavity framework system, which has the blinds that are within it. They are automatic and are based on solar gain and glare, which prioritise natural light, but they're to manage internal kind of heating demands so that we're minimising the need for air conditioning, etc. So there's conditions proposed in the draft decision notice that would control that. So when we have carried out our detailed design work and made a final facade selection, that would all be something that is for officers' further consideration. If you'd like any more on that, we do have our architects here that can add to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine, for the question. I'm going to go to Alison Gowman and then you, Tana.
Thank you. My question was about water resources. I know that you're aiming to be BREEAM excellent, which should include water efficiency, but I wonder if you could explain things such as, for example, cleaning the windows, but also use of water resources and grey water and the impact that will have on the surrounding area. Thank you.
Sure. I may just ask Chris from Arup, who can hopefully help with that.
Yeah, in terms of the water attenuation, so water that lands on the building, there is a proposed blue roof to attenuate the water and small attenuation tanks in the basement. The facilities within the building will utilise kind of grey water recycling as part of the proposal, and that's outlined in the design. So, I mean, all of that is part of the design that will be continued to develop through to tender and construction.
Can you just cleaning the windows? Sorry.
I was just going to add to that in addition to the BREEAM condition you referenced, there's another range of conditions relating to SUDS and water use, but apologies if you had a further question on that.
Well, my question was, sorry, about cleaning the outside of the building, how that would happen or not.
That's a detail which is to follow at a later design stage, but we have shown within all of our 3D modelling the locations of the building maintenance units, which are the kind of cranes which extend to enable cleaning of the facade, and that's outlined within our submission in the design and access statement.
You happy? Thank you. Thank you, Alison. Tana Adkin.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions, if I can put them all together. First one, Wi-Fi connectivity and tall buildings blocking out connectivity for people locally and indeed people on the ground. Has that been mitigated or provision made in relation to Wi-Fi? Second of all, is the gallery going to remain? We've heard how well it's done. The drawings suggest it's going to be a coffee shop or something rather than a gallery. And thirdly, should permission be granted, how long will it take for demolition and construction?
Thank you for your questions. If I start with the telecommunications, Wi-Fi and 5G, that is heads of terms in the planning obligations section of the report. I believe it's paragraph 1019. We have to commission a television interference survey, which also deals with telecommunications networks. So that will deal with things like Wi-Fi and telephone operators. For the detail, there's also utility connections to the development, which will require those details. Regarding the gallery, the space is, to be honest, at this stage, we haven't designed it in detail. So the details which are secured by the cultural management plan, which is in the same paragraph on planning obligations as amended by the addendum, we are looking forward to, we're looking to secure all of those details through the section 106 so that we can show how much of it is to have a sort of ancillary food and beverage function, but it's very much envisaged as something for people to grab a coffee while they're visiting rather than it being an entire space which is taken over by food and beverage. And apologies, remind me of your...
How long is it going to take?
Oh, how long is it going to take? So our programme is envisaged to be between 5 and 6 years from start.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Henry Pollard.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you elaborate on what you're going to do with excavation and the archaeological finds and how you're going to retain and protect what you do find?
Thank you. We have had the opportunity with the building being in its current state to do perhaps more archaeological evaluation at this stage than we would have if the building had people in situ. So I think that officers in the report deal with the engagement that's been carried out with glass, and we have discovered that there is quite low potential for surviving archaeology beneath this, but the conditions which are proposed would allow us to capture any of those findings and deal with that in a positive proactive way with officers under the excavation period.
Thank you. Any more questions to the applicants? Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to questions to the officers. I'm going to start, Alex, because picking up on Tana's point on telco interference and Wi-Fi interference, I know that City Plan Policy 826, from memory, encourages developers to put in additional microcells for 5G in the buildings where needed. If the survey, the interference survey comes back and says there is an impact from the building, are we going to be mandating that through condition? Or how does that process work?
Yeah, that's something that we could certainly search through in the survey. One thing I will say is that as well with telecoms is that it's something that we see on a yearly basis, really, from companies as well, outside of the city, companies like EE, so on and so on, and they submit for applications for telecoms all over the city. So it's something that they're kind of keeping up with as well. But to answer your question is yes, that would be dealt with the survey. Good, thank you. And Gabby.
Just again, following on from the communications and Wi-Fi, my particular concern is the low level, the small businesses who need it to survive, your coffee shops, paper shops, you go in, try to use Apple Pay and it doesn't work and you have to go outside. So can we look at low level mobile Wi-Fi and 5G connectivity when we're looking at conditioning further tall buildings, please?
The survey's for all neighbours, so it's not specifically people up high or down low, and just everyone surrounding the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Alex? Marianne Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I couldn't attend your briefing session, but can you just remind me how easy is it going to be for the public to access these public areas? Because I know next door, 120, the terrace is so popular, the queues snake all the way around the buildings, and I want to understand how easy is it for someone to pop up in their lunchtime to be able to enjoy the area. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So that will be something that we would deal with within the cultural management plan, and it will certainly take into account what you've just said. One thing that we have ensured during the process of the planning is that the ground floor plane includes a specific cultural area, which would essentially act as I'll call it a portal, but an area for people to come into the building and wait, so it's not exactly queuing out onto the streets or anything along those lines. But essentially, when it comes to things like the cultural plan and ensuring that there's enough space for that, that would all be detailed within the clauses of the 106.
Thank you for that. Can I just ask why that hasn't been designed in and put in front of us so that we're fully aware of how people enter the building, security, as we normally do when we have these large schemes? We normally see the queuing area, the air staff security and everything. So I'm just curious to understand why we're not taking that decision, why that's being left to be reviewed by officers and negotiated.
I would say at this current time, it's a bit of an evolving beast. One thing that we have ensured is that obviously the galleries open between 10 and 7, I think it is, and nautical dusk. So the basics of both the culture uses are there. It's more, like you say, the detail, and perhaps potentially could have been flushed out. But one thing I would say is that one thing that we did want to make sure is that the ground floor at least had enough space for those items to be controlled, and yeah.
And I think it's a good... Oh, Gwyn.
Just on that, I think we all acknowledge our 120 Fenchurch Street, because it was one of the first of a generation. We should have negotiated room within the building to queue, so they had to use a retail unit, so there's sufficient room within the ground floor plane of this building to accommodate that queuing, to avoid a repeat of Fencourt.
I mean, it may be a matter of emphasis, but it would be helpful, I think, to make sure that those matters are covered, ideally in the pack, by the time they come to this committee. And hopefully in the future, we'll even have, we're hoping, I think, to have heads of terms around the Section 106 agreement, so we have the fullest possible picture for our decisions. So thank you, Marianne, for making that point. Any more questions for officers? Tana.
One for the officers. Obviously the pack that we get, and I get a paper pack, so I apologise for the trees being wasted there, but the pictures that we see, certainly black and white pictures, whenever we have the skyline, there's just a very difficult to see line around. I can't really see that. I know it's obviously meant to be showing proposed and consented to show the skyline. Could we actually have a CGI imposed skyline so we can actually see what's proposed rather than just a line around it, or is that too difficult? I'm looking at page 87, for example.
As I understand it, I think in terms of the views for this, the CGI is actually imposed upon those slides. It's only the wire lines, I believe they're called.
What I mean is to actually colour it in rather than it just being a...
Just to add to this, if I may, so yes, as you can see on this slide, we do have imagery that shows the outlines of consented schemes. These are quite kind of subtle, and you do need to zoom in typically to see them. This is a standard methodology used in all planning applications. For that kind of printing, I think it doesn't quite work, so we can work with town clerks to rectify that in the future.
I was just going to say all of them, where you just have a very faint line on, do not show what it purports to show, and so it just makes it very difficult. Obviously, we can see these, but if that could be amended, it's just really helpful, because that's one of the things we'll be looking at. Thank you.
Good question. Thanks, Tom. Josephine.
Sort of addendum to my previous question about the blinds. I was talking about the heat conservation and management effects, but can you confirm that enabling those inside the building to have the maximum ability to look at the wonderful views of London is one of the reasons why Venetian blinds are proposed?
Well, yeah, absolutely. As I would say, as the applicant alluded to earlier, the details of the final details of those elevations are secured via conditions, so it's definitely something that we'd look for the condition. But from our point of view, that is exactly what we'd be looking for.
Thank you. Marianne.
One question. Pedestrian comfort on Fenchurch Street. As I said, we always have the wailing banshee when the wind starts to get up. Is that going to improve or is that going to get worse?
It is going to improve quite significantly. So in terms of, do you mean things like wind or actual width of footway? So if we're talking wind of footway, that's going to increase. As I said, there's 316 square metres of new public realm to be provided, so that gives a lot more comfort. And in terms of wind, it's actually a betterment that we're seeing as part of when the cluster's evolving. We're seeing a betterment in terms of wind.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the questions. I'm moving on to debate. If anyone wishes to engage in debate, there being none, I'm going to therefore draw you to page 50. Oh, Marianne, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say thank you. I welcomed your comments about Section 106 agreements coming sort of more defined and detailed to the committee so that we're aware of what we're actually agreeing. So thank you for that. And I would just hope that if there's any changes to the cultural offering, it comes back to the committee. I wouldn't want us to have another issue similar to the HSBC where we lost public realm and it wasn't brought back to this committee. So just seeking those assurances on this development and any other development that's not really detailed and defined.
I agree. I think that's a very important point. I'm sure officers will agree with that. I'm seeing Gwyn nod. Gabby.
Just one point on the cultural offer. Apologies, I'll stand back. First of all, I commend what the Meanwhile Gallery is doing at the moment, but why is it not shown on Destination London and their dateline? Could we please let developers know that there is this facility when things are being tested out so that even more visitors can go and visit in the meanwhile time?
I think it's probably for noting. I'm sure that action will be taken. Thank you for raising it, Gabby. Okay, there being William Upton. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun again. William.
Yes, I'm just conscious that I think we're all impressed by the considerable work that's gone into this. But I would particularly want to note the really welcome addition on the public realm, because it's always an issue that we have had in the past, that you increase the intensification of a building, but you don't increase the space around it. But I'm really glad that this has picked up a theme that I'm pretty sure officers have been pushing that makes a huge difference. So I really welcome that. I did want to note it because I suspect this sort of lack of contentious debate is more of a tribute to the amount of work that's gone in.
Great. Thank you for that, William. I'm sure that will be noted. Great. Shall we move to the vote, please? Page 50, you'll see there are 4 recommendations. I won't read them all out. We'll take them all together, though. Essentially, they cover planning permission, instructing officers to negotiate and execute 106, and authorise officers to make the various relevant notifications. If I could please ask all those in favour of the recommendations to raise their hand. Do we need to count? Yes, we better count. That's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I shouldn't do the counting, by the way. I always get it wrong. Alison can double check.
19, not
Yeah.
20.
20. And all those against? There being none. Abstentions? Therefore, that was unanimously approved. Thank you, committee, and congratulations to the applicants.
We've got 19 people here.
We'll double count. I think it was nonetheless unanimous. We'll work out the numbers after that. Okay, the next item 5, item 6 and item 7. 5 and 6 are starred. No one's asked to reopen them and they're taken as for information. But Marianne, did you have a question? Oh, on item 7, we have questions and Marianne, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I did email during the meeting. It just came out of the discussion of the minutes earlier on and William pointing out that we didn't have very long to actually consider item 3C, which was only emailed to us yesterday afternoon. And that was the Customs House application and Sugar Key. And as William pointed out, they were quite detailed. So I would appreciate if officers and town clerks would in future, rather than send something such short notice, if we can hold it over to the next meeting, as we did with the June and July minutes. I've had a question from the public regarding our planning portal and how long does it take to upload representation. A number of people have written in some planning applications and they go to see that their rep's up there and it's still not there. So I'm not sure how long it takes to upload these reps, but if you don't know the answer, please just get back to me and I can pass that back. And the third question was, I noticed that there will be a judicial review on London Wall West, and I wondered whether you were able to update us on that and how that affects the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. I think on the first point, I agree. I think we need a bit more time in the future for complicated minutes. And on the second item, on the portal uploading times, if we don't know the answer, could we get that?
Well, that kind of varies. Sometimes we get hundreds on one application and there is a lag, but no, we'll try to give you a bit more definitive advice on that.
So we'll send that by email. And then, Gwyn, the last question was an update on London Wall West.
Fleur's probably best to answer this, but yes, there's been a hearing has been allowed, and we don't expect that hearing to take place probably until December at the earliest, I think is. So we'll just wait to hear from them.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all the questions. Let me just consult my notes. I don't have any other business, therefore, which I consider urgent. Thank you, everyone, for coming for an efficient... sorry, Philip.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask for an update on the city plan 2040.
I think, Rob McNichol, you can answer that. That was covered this morning at training, but I know you were...
Sorry.
You had builders in, didn't you?
I'm going to watch a recording.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so the city plan and the modifications to it will be coming to this committee on the 21st of October, and prior to that we'll be going to the local plan subcommittee on, I believe, the 9th of October, the papers for which will be published on Thursday.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, particularly Alex, for presenting. I can now close the meeting.